Hello everyone, welcome to NAB Day 2 here at the Maxon booth. I'm Matthias Omatola, aka Major VFX on all the socials. And we are accompanied by some of the most amazing artists anywhere on the world, and especially online. Hi online, you want to wave at the internet? There we go, hi internet, hi mom, hope you're tuning in. For those of you who don't know, we have amazing artists showcasing how they use Maxon One products in their workflow. And I had the pleasure of getting introduced to this lovely woman to my left when I saw amazing GIFs that just were eye-captivating. They kept looping. I could not find the seam. And I was like, I think people would want to see that. So let's give a big round of applause to Erica Anderson. Woo!
So thank you, Matthias, for the intro. I have never done anything like this before. So thank you, Maxon, for inviting me. Like, it means so much. It's a huge honor. My name is Erica Anderson. I go by Erica of Anderson online. I mainly do concert visuals, and I also do some large-scale installation pieces. On the left of this side is some of my concert visual work. The top two images are from the Cure de Loneliness tour by Wolf, and then the 1993 tour by Manila Killa. Those were the first tours I ever worked on, and funnily enough, they both emailed me like 2 weeks away from each other. It's really funny. But it took me 7 years of blood, sweat, and tears to get into the concert visuals industry, and them being the first two tours I ever worked on, like, both hold like a very special place to my heart. The photo below them is from Mern, and this was at Brooklyn Mirage last year, where he actually opened up for Wolf, and it was another tour that I worked on. I met Mern through Wolf and Manila Killa, and I love working with them, and I've worked with them for a few years now, and like, what I love working about with them is like they really give the artists that they hire like space to create and explore, and even if it's nothing that they're interested in visually, like there's still that like mutual respect there. And then on the right is an installation piece I did for the Nightlife Denver program, where every month they showcase like a new group of artists and display their work on the Denver clock tower. And I was part of the August 2020 group. And the fact that they were even able to put that on in 2020 and that I was able to contribute to it was like a miracle in and of itself. So I tried to incorporate that into the piece I made. And the piece, I called it Beginning, and the theme around it was just like dissolving your past and then rebuilding to a much more like hopefully hopeful and brighter future, which we were kind of all experiencing at the time. So I want to get into a bit more about my background. So I graduated from SCAD in 2012, and as I was applying for jobs, I started posting GIFs on Tumblr, and I was obsessed with Scratch on Film at the time. And if you don't know, like, that's one of the oldest forms of animation along with stop motion. And so what they would do back then was like take actual film strips and like scratch on them and like draw all over them, and then that's how they would animate. And so for these, what I did was I bought a pack of overhead projector sheets and like scribbled all over them, and then scanned them into Photoshop, like cropped them, and then imported them to After Effects, and that's how I make them move. So the top row here are the first 4 GIFs I ever posted to the internet, and then the bottom 4 are just couple of my personal favorites. And I created GIFs in this way for a few years, but after a while, like, I really wanted to push myself. So in 2005, like, I started seeing what I could do with just After Effects exclusively, and then by 2016, I started doing them, like posting a new animated GIF every single day. And actually, April 4th was my 8th year anniversary of doing dailies. So every GIF that you see here, I made in 2017 completely natively in After Effects. And I didn't start incorporating third-party plugins until 2018. And I truly believe like working with After Effects the way I did for so long just gave me like a really unique perspective of what you could do with the program. And so when I started incorporating Red Giant into my workflow, like it just, one, it gave me a lot more of an appreciation for everything, and then two, just gave me this like objective perspective of how to solve creative problems. So, with that being all said, my presentation is on mastering particle loops in After Effects. And I'm going to go through 4 different demos. So the first is just how to create like your basic particle loop using Particular. And then the second one is kind of like a time saver version where we don't actually use Particular at all. And then the third is we're going back to Particular, and then how to also loop like emitting from a parent. And then finally, it's how to loop an animated mask emitter and hopefully summon the Dark Lord Sauron. So we're going to start in the Shire and then end at Mount Doom. So I'm going to open up After Effects. Now for reference, every loop that I'm making is 6 seconds and 24 frames per second. I'm very bad at math, and I like to use even numbers as much as I can. It just like helps keep everything simple for me. So this is the first demo, and I'm going to show you how to make these kind of like matrixy, like glitchy fireflies. So I already have like a background solid, and I am going to duplicate it, and I'm going to pre-comp this, and I'm going to make this comp 12 seconds. And I'm going to explain why in a minute. And also, I'm going to use the Videopilot FX console throughout the whole presentation. I love it. It's magic. I can't live without it. What makes it so special is you could just like click on a solid and then do the keyboard shortcut, and then you can type in whatever effect you want, and then it should instantly apply. Okay, cool. So I'm going to open the designer, and under the emitter type, I'm going to make a box. And for particle second, I'm going to change the life seconds to 6. Now, if you're making loops, as long as it's a number like divisible by the length of your loop, it's fine. So like it could work with 3, but I want as many particles, or I want all the particles to be on screen as much as possible. So I'm going to change it to 6. And then I'm also going to adjust my box and make it a lot taller. So I'm going to make the y-axis like 2000. And I'm going to adjust the velocity a little bit to like 20. And then velocity random to 100. And then the opacity, I'm going to have everything like on a bell curve. That'll look really pretty. Okay. And then for particle type, I'm going to change it to the glow sphere. And for color, I'm going to do random from gradient. And since we're making like...
So sorry to adjust your mic.
Oh, sorry. Okay, is that better?
Let's try that.
Okay.
There we go, try that.
Okay, is that good?
There we go, try that.
Is that good? Okay, thanks. Sorry. So I'm making like fireflies. Hey, you don't have to clap for that. Since I'm making like fireflies, I'm gonna make it like more lime green-ish, and also make this other color like a nice yellow. Yeah, it's there. And then I'm going to go to the environment and have them all floating up. Maybe negative, no, maybe negative 50. actually 200. You can see it better. There we go. Okay. So negative 200. And now I'm going to hit apply. Now, this is the part where like you get them to loop. It's kind of important. So you do a keyframe at the very beginning of your comp, so the particles per second. And then here at your midpoint, I'm going to do another keyframe and set it to 0. And then I'm going to select both of them and then toggle hold keyframe. And you do this because you need an equal amount of time for all of your particles to appear and then for all of them to disappear. Okay, so I'm going to purge that real quick. Okay. Perfect. So now we're going to go to our original comp, and I'm going to duplicate this particular comp, and then just slide everything on top of each other. And make like a little sandwich. So you have like the side or the half that's all the particles animating on, and then all of the particles animating off. And that is how you get like a seamless loop. And it loops. But one quick tip, if you take anything from this presentation, I think this is like the key point, is if selecting both of these halves and then pre-comping them again. That way your loop is already set and you don't have to go back and like redo everything. Like you could just go back to here, like your original particular comp, change colors, change the velocity, whatever you need to, and then you don't ever have to like do the duplication thing again. You would only have to do that if you were, like if you changed your mind and like wanted to make it like an 8-second loop or whatever else. But since that's it. So they look a little perfect at the moment because they're just like perfect little glow spheres, but I want to break them up a lot more. So what I'm going to add is hex tile, because when you turn the smearing on to 100, and then the render to fold seamlessly, and then the radius to like 10, like it just makes these little, it breaks everything up and looks a lot more like organic. And a bit more natural, but I also want to do a bit more. So I'm going to add Minimax. And I always click don't shrink edges, and the direction will just do vertical, the channel, alpha and color, and then maximum the minimum, and then make this about 25. Now you have like all these like really cool like electric lines. But it still looks a little lifeless, so I am going to make an adjustment layer. Can't remember the shortcut. An adjustment layer, and then add optical glow to it. Change the highlights only to like 25, and the size maybe 50, and the fall off so to like 75. Like here's your sort of like matrix firefly situation, and it loops. So that's the first demo. If you don't want to like bother with any of that pre-comping or particular at all, like you really just have like 15 minutes to make a loop. I really love using Tao for that. I'm gonna clear my cache real quick. So I'll show you how to do that. So I already have my background solid. I'm going to duplicate it again, and then I'm going to add Tao. Now it starts off as this like ring shape, and I'm going to go into segment and add repeat and gone, and change the segments to like 10. I'm also going to turn off the camphor because we don't need it. And I'm going to try to make this like aperture shape. So I'm going to adjust the rotation, and then that's the wrong direction. I could adjust the size to 400. And because this is technically like a polygon, you could go into mask path and loop it with the rotate Z. So I'm going to do a keyframe at the beginning. It says this is a 10-sided polygon, 360 divided by 10 is 36. And one important thing when you're looping with keyframes like this is you need to make sure that your end point is on the last visible frame. And I'm going to over-exaggerate this so you can see what I mean. We wait. Yeah, it stops. Like there's a very obvious pause. So you don't want that. So that's why it's really important to make sure that you don't put it on the last frame, but like the last visible frame right here. And so then you'll see that it loops. Okay. But there's a lot more that you can do with this. So I'm gonna go to repeat paths, first repeater, and I'm gonna make like 5 repetitions. And then I'm gonna adjust the position a bit more on the x-axis, and then again on the y-axis. And when you do this too, it also loops, like everything will loop together. But it's also very like too similar to each other. So I'm going to go to fractal displacement and just adjust the amplitude again to like 200. And that helps like break everything up and feel sort of a lot more natural. But the true magic happens is when you go into shader and you change, first I always love to change it to density. And then we're going to change the draw to points. And then the point size, we're going to make it 10. So you can actually like see them. And here, it loops. And you didn't even use particular at all. And one other key tip I like to do, now if you wanted like a lighter background, show as an example, like all of the dots are like, some of them are black, some of them are gray, and if you don't want that, all you have to do is use unmult. And that adds transparency. It makes it everything, the quote unquote particles like feel a lot more natural and like they actually belong in a scene. But we're going for like a space vibe with this one. So I'm gonna just delete this fill really quick. Also, if you wanted to change the color, all you'd have to do is go to like materials and lighting and go here and create it that way. Or what I really like to do is if you want like more like color variation, I really love to use fractal background because it also has its own like built-in loop function. So we're making the default is 5, so we're making like a 6-second loop. So I'll just change that to 6, and I'll adjust the aspect ratio to maybe 2.5, and then I'll adjust the colors, make it a lot more brighter. Actually, I'll make this one a little bit darker. The mid-tone. Then this one kind of like here. Okay, cool. And I'll just keep this layer hidden, and then you just go into your textures and select it, and then make sure you have effects and masks on. And then you have like, not just like quote unquote like animated particles, but also like an animated color field as well. That also loops. I'm going to add another adjustment layer and add Optical Glow again. And change the highlights again to like 25 and size to 50, so the fall off maybe to 50. Then you could also like do some really cool things with prism displacement. Have that on top. Now this looks insane, but if you change the displacement source to the Tao layer, and then effects and masks, and then change the source to alpha pre-melt with gray, it kind of turns everything into these like little like holographic raindrops, or like even these little like atom blobs floating into space. Thanks. So, like, I know this isn't particular, but I really wanted to like show this off to you guys that like, just like as a potential like option, and just like what you can like do with all of the tools. Like, it's not so like you could just have a lot more freedom and like playfulness with everything. So I'm gonna purge cache again. And for the third demo, we're going to go back into particular. And I already have sort of the base loop set out, just like the pre-comping, so I don't have to. It's the same as the very first demo. Where you select all the slides and like slide them over and whatever else. So here, it's going to be the particular layer. I'm going to add particular. For this demo, I'm going to try and make like a sort of like magic fire flower situation. So I'm going to go open the designer. And I'm going to, in the first demo, I used the box emitter, but this, I'm going to stick with the point emitter. Again, I'm going to change the life seconds to 6. Then have the opacity be a bell curve. Velocity, we're just going to ramp it up to like 150, and also velocity random to like 100. And then we're going to add like 300 particles, just make it like that much more crazy, and so make it a glow sphere. And for the color, we're going to change it to like overlife / temperature, and I want the center to be like orange, and then the outside to be more purple. Okay, cool. And also the blend mode I think we're going to do to add. Now there's some really cool things you could do with like gravity and wind effects, where you like have the gravity on but also the wind, so you can't tell like if something's like floating and flying at the same time. So for gravity, I'm going to do like 25, and then for the wind, do like -50. You can kind of see it, like you don't know entirely like what's happening. Okay, so to add the emit from parentness to it, because I'll duplicate the system, then I'll do a couple other things real quick to make, hopefully the computer won't crash. So I'm gonna change the particles to like 10, and velocity down to like 2. And then I'm going to change this emitter type to emit from parent. And what you're essentially doing is you're making each original particle that you made here in the primary system like its own emitter. Okay, so under emitter type, I'm also going to change this to a linear slope. Then also here on the velocity, I'm going to change it to a linear slope as well. It's kind of neat, but also crazy at the same time. Okay, so I'm just going to apply this. Now, because we technically have 2 emitters, that means we have to do keyframes for both of them the exact same way that we did in the first demo. So if you go to particle, emitter, and then a keyframe here at the beginning, and then again here at 6 seconds, change that to 0, select them both, toggle hold keyframe, and then you go here to system 2, under the emitter, set a keyframe at the beginning, and then another at 6 seconds, select them both, toggle hold keyframe, and now you can have all of the particles like appear and then disappear at the same rate. Okay. So like, what if you wanted like a rotation and also like a specific like camera angle? You have to go back to your primary system, and I prefer doing rotations within, where is it? The global controls? Yeah, here under world transform. So as long as it's within like a 360 type rotation, so either 360, 180, or 90, like that's how I feel like they loop the best. So with 6 seconds, I really like just a basic 90-degree rotation on the y-axis. Where is it? Okay, here it is. So here. And then again, you want to make sure you put your keyframe the one after the last visible frame to help it loop, because you need to make sure your endpoint is like, yeah, so like half of what you set it to. So here it's 45, so we should be good. And then if you wanted like a specific camera angle, I like just making a camera separately, and then, you know, parenting that to a null object. You know, make it 3D, and then you can go into the rotation and change it that way if you wanted to. So, cool. Now, I'm going to change the resolution to quarter, so hopefully it won't like render too bad. Yeah, so that's how you get it to loop. But there's still like more you can do with it. So again, I'm going to make another adjustment layer and add chromatic displacement. And I'm going to change the displacement layer to the particle layer, and then effects and masks, and then display layer alpha to ignore, and just update the displacement amount to make it a lot more kind of like, I don't know, weird. But I also really love layering them with prism displacement, and that looks insane. But if you change the source to the particles and effects and masks, and then, you know, pre-mult with gray, and then make it like this, like 1, and then keep that the same. And you can have them on top of each other, and like the way you sandwich them can do different things. And also, I'm gonna add Optical Glow again, and change the highlights to 25. Actually, I think the fall off to 75, and the size again to like 50. You could also, and the way like you order everything can like change the effects of how everything looks. So we'll just pre-render that and see what happens. Yeah, so that's kind of your like how to emit from parent and like a Fireflower type situation. Thank you. Now for the final demo, is how to like make a looping animated mask emitter. And this was it's actually something that I figured out like 2 months ago, because I knew you could like have like particles coming out from an animated mask, but I had no idea like how to actually make them loop until like 2 months ago, and I kind of figured like the best way to demonstrate that for whatever reason was with Sauron. So I made that as one of my dailies, and so if you follow me anywhere on social media, you've probably seen it, and that's like that actual one. Okay, so again, like I have everything sort of set up already with my pre-comp situation. So when you're doing like a mask emitter, you need like a mask solid and then your particular solid. So here's my mask layer. Now I just did this basically like with the pen tool. If you don't know, like you could actually like make a path in Illustrator and then just copy and paste it onto a solid into After Effects. Because I'm definitely like a type of person who wants to like build as much as I can in After Effects just to save time. But honestly, like sometimes just like building it in Illustrator is a lot easier, and then copying and pasting it, especially if what you're making is pretty intricate. But this is just like a basic eyeball shape, so I just did it with the pen tool. And now I'm going to show you how to animate it with just a mask path. So we put a keyframe here at the beginning, and then again here at your midpoint. And it's very important that these two frames are exactly the same, otherwise like it won't loop. And I'm going to animate this blinking, so I'm going to put a couple other keyframes down, and then I'm going to animate it closing in between these. So here, this top side, and here, bottom. I'm going to do it again, here, and then bottom. And now I'm going to sort of adjust the timing of these real quick. Okay, that should be good. So I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to turn them to Easy Ease, and then go into the graph editor, and then select these frames, and then just like adjust the timing a little bit, and then it should look like a more natural blink. Okay, so this is a step where like you need to make sure like this animation is locked and ready to go, because we're going to select all of these and then copy them and then pasting them. And I recommend like getting your animation done first, so then if you did have to make any changes, you'd have to like go back and like delete everything, and it's just like kind of a nightmare. So just for simplicity's sake, make sure like you have your animation set and then copying and duplicating it. And we're doing we're doing it this way because you need to have the exact same animation when all of the particles are appearing, and then again when they're all disappearing. Because these two halves like need to match up as much as possible. Okay. So with that being said, I'm gonna turn this mask layer off because we don't really need it anymore. And I'm gonna turn a particular solid on. And I'm gonna add particular. Now in your emitter panel, we're going to change the emitter type to text/masks. And then under the text/mask emitter panel, we're going to change the layer to the mask. And then I forgot to make it a 3D layer, which you have to do. There you go. And then change it to, again, to effects/masks. Now, this is going to be like a 2-system particle loop. So I want particles coming out from the eyeball itself, and then again later we're going to fill the inside of the eye with particles. So for this first part, we're going to do emit from edges, and then you need to make sure your layer sampling is current frame. Because if it was particle birth time, when you would do this, like all the particles will like more like pulse on and off. And I mean, that's a cool look if that's what you're looking for, but for this specific aesthetic, I'm gonna stick with the current frame. Okay, and now I'm gonna open up the designer. So you can see everything is coming from the edge of the mask that I made. And so we're gonna change the particle type again to 6 seconds. And then the motion, I'm gonna change it to outwards. So everything is coming out of the mask shape. And we're going to change the velocity random to 100, and then maybe the velocity distribution to 5. So then they're like more concentrated around the edge. I'm going to change the particle type to glow sphere again, and then the opacity to, I guess, linear slope. Cool. And I'm also going to add like a bunch more particles, like 300. Neat. Okay, and so for the color, I'm going to do another like random gradient. And since we're making Sauron, we're just going to do everything red. Insane. Okay. So I just like picked red, like a nice orange color. You can also do the blend mode to add. And now, so we have this set up, so I'm just going to duplicate it again. Hopefully it doesn't crash. And I'm going to change the emit from to faces. So now everything's going to be inside, but you need to make sure that I'm also going to have it 0 motion. So now they're all like concentrated within the eyeball. I think I'm going to also add more particles. So like 500. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. And now we're gonna hit apply. Okay. So again, like in the previous demo, we need to do keyframes for both emitters that we made. So at the beginning of your comp, set a keyframe for particles per second. And then here at 6 seconds to 0. Select them both. Toggle hold keyframe. Then go to the second emitter, set keyframe at the beginning, and then again at 6 seconds, 0. Select them both, toggle hold keyframe, then they all sort of emit on, and then also animate together. If I scrub through, can kind of see it. Okay, maybe not. I'll purge my cache real quick. Again. So back into our original comp. You can see it hopefully animating. We had this problem when I was rehearsing with like random drop frames. I don't know why that's happening. But hopefully you kind of get the idea. And because we also have so many particles, it is going to take a while to render. It's almost there. It's just how After Effects works. Okay, Well, unfortunately, it's stroby, and like I don't want to give you all a seizure, but under normal circumstances, it would loop, but we have had like drop frame problems, but it's fine. But it's still very like basic right now. So I'm going to show you how to make it more like sinister and evil and Sauron-esque. So I really love using fast radial blur and also like layering them. So this first one, I'm going to change the zoom to brightest and make it like 85. Maybe even 95. And then duplicating it, and then changing the zoom to standard, and then bringing that back down to 75, 50. Cool. And then I'm going to make another adjustment layer and add prism displacement. And I'm going to make the source particles, and then again effects/masks, alpha pre-built with gray, and then I'm going to turn the soften displacement mask to like completely off to 0, and then the glass refraction maybe to like 1, and then adding optical glow on top of that. For the highlights, like 25, and then the fall off, I think 50. That's how I did it. And then maybe the size to 100. Actually, I'm going to change the fall off to 100. Cool. You can also like adjust the vibrance, make it a lot more fiery. You could also like colorize your glow, make it a lot more sinister. But we don't have a pupil yet, so with that, all I did was I duplicated the solid and then did a basic circle mask, and then using the pen convert vertex tool, just converting the top 2 points, and then adjusting the scale and making it like super small to fit the eyeball, kind of like that. And then I put it on top of everything, and then I also added another fast blur and changed it to like 100. And then I turned off repeat edge pixels. But it doesn't like or disappear when the eye is closed. So all you have to do is just like copy and paste your animation layer, and then set this as like a track matte, and then also like add another like blur to it, like 50, and then you could also add some motion blur to it to make it a lot more natural. I'm gonna purge my cache and see if that helps with the drop frame problem. Hopefully it does. I'll make the viewfinder a little bigger. So this is going to take a while, but we use like fast blur, and those are like the fastest blurs in After Effects to render. So hopefully it shouldn't take too long. Oh no, we got some draw frames. I'm so sorry. We're almost there. We're almost there. so sorry. Yeah, so that's essentially what I did with that project. Also add optics compensation to it, and then like make it like 100, and then reverse lens distortion, just to make it like even more like all-encompassing. I don't remember if I did that on another adjustment layer. So I'll probably do that. Yeah, okay. Hopefully. Is it better? Ah, there's still some drop frames. I'm so sorry. That's so disappointing. But that's basically how you make Sauron. So that's so that's the end of my presentation. So thank you again, Maxon. Thank you, Nab. Here's a QR code if you want to follow me. I'm basically Erica of Anderson everywhere. But thank you again so much.
Yay! Great job. What did you say, encore? All right, if you do have questions for Erica, now is the time, live audience. That's right, now is the time. I know she was really thorough. Great job for your first presentation. Look at that, a capacity crowd, right?
Thank you.
Right? Look at that, good job. And thank you, Internet, for tuning in. Erica will be in the back, so if you want to dive deep into any of these projects or go over anything particularly, all right. She'll be back from there for the next hour. But getting ready for our next presenter, we got about 12 minutes, and up with, next will be PJ with laundry. So we'll see you then.
Bye.